Hello and welcome to the Live as Lions podcast. This is Liz and Uli Mannchen, and this is episode 1, Meet the Mannchens.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening in. One thing that you will immediately notice when you meet the Mannchens is that we are a very international family.
Yep.
I am Uli, and I'm born and raised in Germany.
I'm Liz. I'm from Orlando, Florida.
Our daughter's from China, our dog is from Hungary, and our rabbit is from eBay. We have been married for over 10 years, and we have been working together for 14 years. And during all this time, we lived in Germany. However, we have traveled to over 40 nations in that time, always with the focus to champion and support people in their pursuit to live life as lions.
That's right. So, Uli, why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory of who you are, where you come from, and how we met?
You know, I come from a very small place in Germany that actually has the name place in German.
What's that in German?
Ort. And we always joke about it that must have been the time when they ran out of names or ideas. However, I can just say it is a magical place, you know, and for me it was the perfect place to grow up in because I had everything I needed. I just had to cross the street and there I was in the woods, you know, the biggest playground ever. And you must know in Germany the forests are safe. It's pretty much a reflection of the whole culture. We're pretty keen on playing things safe, you know.
That's right. There's no dangerous animals in the wild in Germany.
We have rabbits and deers. We do have snakes, but they are not poisonous. We do have spiders, but they are not poisonous. So jumping around in the woods is a pretty safe place. And however, that was my microcosmos growing up in, you know, and as you grow up, the world gets smaller, and my curiosity became bigger, wondering, well, what's behind the horizon? You know, what's over the pond, if so to say so. And I never had the feeling that I see myself in a traditional pursuit of a career in my area, in my hometown. I also would say I never had the perspective in general to pursue a traditional life. So there was always this urge that drew me out, you know, and that's how I ended up becoming staff at this school of photography that was focusing on humanitarian work in developing countries with the approach, how can you use art and creativity in order to further these initiatives? And that's where we met.
At the school.
At the school.
That's right. So I came over in 2007 from Orlando, and I think I was just at a place in my life where I was trying to figure out, like most young 20-year-olds, who I was and what I wanted to do. And I'm an artist, I'm a musician, and I knew that I wanted to do something with that, but I didn't know what it was. And I found this school, and I just loved the idea of using your art to go to different cultures in different places and figure out how you can use it in order to support other people. And so I came over. You were staffing my school.
That's right.
It was not a forbidden love. We later, after the school, we ended up becoming friends and inevitably working together. But I think the thing that really brought us together was both of our passion and pursuit of what it was that we wanted to be doing. So in my school, I ended up going to Chad and Cameroon and Ethiopia. And where did you go?
I back then went to India and Thailand.
That's right. And then we kind of came back together and said, okay, are we going to continue to figure out what it means to use art to support projects in developing countries, or are we just going to go back home? And
right.
What did you decide?
I decided to break with traditions and say yes to the quite insecure perspective of staying in this job. And it was insecure in terms of, well, will this work? Is this is this safe with also financial gain and all these things, and but I was so attracted by the approach of asking the question, well, why not? Because it wasn't really common to ask the question, is there a place for arts and creativity in humanitarian work? And the approach was, well, why not? Let's try it out. So we tried it out. We feel like it did work. We feel like it did bear fruit, and it was really wild, and it was fun. And I, as an artist, felt like, oh, I'm in the right place. There is a use for me here. And I love it. And we continued asking this question, so can we grow this to the next level? And again, the approach was, well, why not? And of course, there were a lot of challenges and sacrifices had to be made. Again, it wasn't the most secure path. It was pioneering, it was new, it was innovative. There was no guarantee this is how it will play out, and this will work, and you will see yourself in 5 years here and there, but again, that was for me so attractive to say, well, let's try it out. Why not? And that's what was it for you?
I think for me it was knowing that we were onto something, and that I had never in my life felt like I was doing something that as important as I was then. And I knew that if I was to just go home, I would never figure out the answers to those questions. And so I stayed. I called my mom and I said, I know I was supposed to only stay here for 6 months, but I'm going to stay. And then that's how you and I started working together. We formed our own team and our own nonprofit.
That's
and we
right.
were
Yeah.
project managers and team leaders of a creative team. And we basically started projects in developing countries. And we also network with other projects in developing countries.
Figuring out innovative strategies, how to also fundraise for existing projects.
Yeah, projects that were like orphanages, projects that worked with children who had been trafficked, orphans and widows. And we created projects that would support and empower them to rise up out of their situations.
And one of the main things that we actually ended up doing was our band Liz and the Lions.
That's right.
Where we decided, well, let's tour the world, because our main passion was storytelling. Yeah, that happened through photography, that happened through the different strategies that we came up with. But I would say that was the red thread through everything, And so we had our band, and we were writing songs, and then we pretty much put the stories of those we met in these developing nations into songs and took them on the road to share them with the rest of the world. And that was for me a really cool time, a really wild time. And that was the time, the area or the season where Liz and the Lions was born. But Liz, do you remember why we called it Liz and the Lions?
Yeah. Well, for us, lions are fierce, brave people who are fighting for what they believe in. They are unapologetic of who they are and who they want to be. And they're people who take their battle scars and turn them into badges of honor. People who turn tragedies into triumphs and find courage through their fears. And those are the kind of people that we want to be and we want to surround ourselves with. So we always talk about how the fact that, iron sharpens iron, and who you surround yourself with is who you will become.
Right.
And when I was talking about starting the band with Uli, because we were the first 2 members of it, and that was really how we became close and I think inevitably fell in love, was just this idea of I want to be a lion, and I know I want to surround myself with lions, and I know I want to call people to be lions. And I think through all these places and these cultures and these incredible people and the stories that we were learning about, it was just over and over again, these people who were rising out of tragedy triumphantly. And those were just lions to us. And that was also just so inspiring for us that we wanted to take those stories on the road and write songs about it and share those stories and use those stories to feed back into those projects and those people. But it was bigger than that. It was also about calling people who were listening to the music and through the music to be lions and to live wild and free.
Right.
And I think that has always been a huge part of who we are and what we're passionate about. And I think that development of people and growing people and championing people, that really led you over the years to becoming a coach.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I remember being surrounded by people that inspired me and who were not satisfied with the status quo. They fought for what they believed in and they went for it and they lived wild and free. So being surrounded by that motivated me to do the same. So I felt like I was surrounded by lions, which turned me into a lion. And then taking that on the road allowed the people we met on tour to turn into lions.
Yeah.
And that's true. Like working as project manager and team leader in this season was for me a very attractive a job to see people, how they use their skills and talents, how they define their goals, and how they grow in the process, and to see the development, the personal development, but also the development of their work. And that was for me so attractive that it brought me to the start of my journey becoming a life coach.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think through all of that, that is how we inevitably started Live as Lions.
That's right, yeah.
So what is it that we're doing here, Willie?
Well, this podcast it's not about telling the listeners how to be lions.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's not always that we know what it means to be lions. It's just the pursuit and the question of in this situation, how do I live wild and free? With this decision-making process, or with this challenge, or with this desire, how do I live as a lion in pursuit of that, or facing this situation?
Right.
And so this podcast, again, it's not about telling others how to be a lion. It's more us inviting the listener, you, to take part in this conversation and to take part in this journey, how to become a lion. And we do this by sharing stories of how we failed and how we triumphed, and also stories of our journey. And we will also hear from others how they battled and pursued their goals, and how they battled and how they overcame and persevered on their journey.
Right. Absolutely. So I think it's also important for people, as you're meeting the Mannchens and you're kind of getting to know us and who we are and the quirkiness of this international little family. I think it's also really important that people know that we are people of faith, and we believe that the wind in our sails is from God, and we are believers. But it's also important for people to know that everybody is welcome. If you were to come over to our home on an average weekend, and it wasn't during the COVID-19, you would find us sitting at a table with people that came from many different backgrounds and cultures and beliefs and religions, and breaking bread with them and having community with them. And that is the table that we want to have and create in this podcast, that you are all welcome to be here with us. We will share our journey, and it's kind of impossible for us to share a lot of these stories without talking about our faith, and that will kind of come in and out as we share stories. But it really is a place where everybody is welcome, and that we want as many people to join us in that conversation of what it means to live as lions.
Right. I mean, we're creatives, we're nerds, we're definitely hopeless romantics.
Yeah.
We're comfortable with failures, and we're fascinated with fear and passionate about loving our neighbors well. Life is messy, but it's like in this messiness, how to like find a way to live wild and free,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Find the treasures. So we will see you guys when?
We will have new content on this podcast every week. It will be different content. Sometimes we will have storytelling time. Sometimes we will have guests. Sometimes we will have coaching input. But you will find every week new content on this podcast.
That's right. So guys, until next time, be wild, be free, live as lions.